Hello, I am Ruby Falconer. This is a Shamanic Egyptian Astrological update for the week of September 28th. This is a big astrological week. We've got a lot going on. Before I launch into a description of some of the bigger energies that are coming at us, I want to mention a couple of shifts that are taking place with the inner planets. First off, Mercury. Mercury is Thoth in the Egyptian pantheon. Yesterday, September 27th, Mercury moved into the water sign Scorpio, and Mercury is going to turn retrograde in Scorpio on October 13th, and at the end of October, Mercury will be retrograding back into Libra for a while. Mercury will turn direct on November 3rd, which is Election Day in the United States, in Libra, and in a challenging relationship to Saturn. Mercury will then come back into Scorpio on November 11th, and will then exit the sign Scorpio on December 1st. So we've got a lot of Mercury in Scorpio energy, and the way we would say this in Shamanic Egyptian Astrology is Thoth, the sacred scribe, will be emanating through Bast, the cat goddess. Mercury is famous for having a built-in bullshit detector, so we can expect during this period of time that there will be revelations, both in our personal life as well as collectively, things that are hidden under the surface, secrets and lies, deceits, coming to the surface and being revealed. We can also expect, because this comes with the territory with Scorpio in general, a certain amount of suspicion and distrust in the realm of communications. So that's a fairly big shift, and it's one that's going to be with us for a while. We also will have, and this will not take us long, it will be Venus is moving pretty quickly right now, but Venus, who is Isis in the Egyptian pantheon, will be entering the earth sign Virgo, which is aligned with Nekhbet. And Nekhbet is an older version of Isis. Nephthys, Isis, and Nekhbet are the triple goddesses of Egyptian myth. And so with the entry of Venus Isis into Virgo Nekhbet, we will see a focus on the value of details, the value of discernment, of prioritizing, and typical for Virgo, a certain amount of worrying, some criticism, some fussiness, those types of energies. Now, Venus will not be in Virgo for a long time, about 3 weeks, because Venus is moving at a pretty good clip right now, but that will be a shift in energy. That's going to take place on Friday, October 2nd. We also have a full moon this week, and that is on Thursday, October 1st. It is the Aries full moon. In the Egyptian pantheon, Aries is allied with Capra. Capra is the rising sun, and the message of Aries Capra is every day is a new beginning. We can always begin again. And full moons are always come with a certain amount of intensity. Some are more intense than others. This one's going to be fairly intense. Aries is a strong sign. It's a fire sign. It's full of enthusiasm. It can be impulsive, can be combative, can be competitive, spontaneous, always up for new ideas and new energy. So all of that is going to be coming with the energy of the full moon and preceding the full moon. And during the full moon, we got a couple of the bigger planets stationary. And the first one is Saturn. Saturn is already stationary as we're speaking now, as I'm recording this. Saturn will be changing direction tonight, the night of the 28th, early morning of the 29th, depending where you live. I live on the east coast of the United States, and for me, it's going to be turning direct at 1:11 a.m. tomorrow morning. That would be Tuesday the 29th. And so Saturn is stationary, has been stationary for 2 or 3 days. And even though it's turning direct tonight, it will remain stationary for a few days. So it's going to be, in essence, stationary at the time of the full moon. Saturn will also tomorrow be moving through a square, a challenging relationship with Mars retrograde in Aries. So, and that energy will also be present during the full moon. And during the full moon itself, we're going to have an exact alignment, or on that day, an alignment between Eris, the goddess of strife and discord, and Mars. And both of those are in a square to Saturn. So intense energies around the full moon. It's pretty much the same kind of energy that we've been seeing, which is a lot of divisiveness, a lot of, the gap between us, at least in America, couldn't be wider. A lot of discord, unhappiness, certain amount of violence at times. All of that energy is very much present. We also have Pluto changing direction, and that's going to take place on Sunday. And that energy, that is October 4th. And that means that as we progress through the week, Pluto is slowing to station as well. And during the full moon, Pluto will be stationary. It's actually stationary now. When we get down to a point where a planet is only moving a minute or so in an entire day, that for all intents and purposes is stationary. And of course, I always want to remind everyone that this is from our perspective here on Earth. We're looking out at these planets in the sky, and basically from our perception, whether we're looking at through a telescope or whether we see them with the naked eye, they are not moving. And so that being the case, their energy during that period, when from our perception they're not moving, is extremely intensified. And so we feel the energy of that planet very strongly here on Earth. And so right now we are feeling the energy of both Saturn and Pluto. And this is important for a number of reasons. First of all of the outer planets are important. And when they move to station and change direction, that's when intense things happen on planet Earth. Secondly, these two planets are the core energies for this entire year. They are the heart and soul of the Great Shift alignment. What has happened this year is that Jupiter, the principle of expansion, has also been in alignment with them. So the essential energies of of Saturn and Pluto have been expanded during this year. And the exact conjunction of Saturn and Pluto took place on January 12th. It was the only one. Last year in 2019, Saturn and Pluto were sort of dancing with each other, coming closer, moving apart. And so we had a sense of some of this energy, certainly in terms of some of the divisiveness and all of that. It's hard to remember, what things were like a year ago. But things were pretty intense, and, we were all responding to it in one way or another. But since the exact Saturn-Pluto conjunction, it has definitely intensified and magnified several times over. And I want to remind everyone, a Saturn-Pluto conjunction is a big thing. It happens every once between 35 and 38 years. It sets the tone for a new era. And so if you look at the times when we've had Saturn-Pluto conjunctions, it's initiated a whole new way of being. Our last Saturn-Pluto conjunction took place in 1984, and two things that are very relevant were happening at that time. One thing was the Iran-Iraq war, and what this was a harbinger and told us that for the next period of time, until the next Saturn-Pluto conjunction, which was in January, the Middle East was really going to be taking the center stage for the world, and that we were going to be, in many ways, everything was going to be in reference to things that were going on in the Middle East, or the energies of the Middle East that were coming toward us. And while a Saturn-Pluto alignment, a conjunction, which means, the two are like this, is really important, so is the opposition. And the opposition for these two in that cycle happened in 2001. And in 2001, we had 9/11. And so in some ways that opposition is like a full moon. There's a crescendo of energy, and whatever it is that's been initiated back at the conjunction is going to come to fruition during the opposition. So we had 9/11 in 2001. The other thing that happened in 1984 was the expansion and development of the personal computer. I got my first computer in 1988, and I remember, a very close friend of mine, his younger brother, got his first computer in 1984, and it was a Commodore. It was a big, huge, boxy thing, and I was fascinated by it. And this young person was 12 years old, so he was the first generation to grow up, kind of in the computer generation, and he is a software person now. He's a computer scientist now, which makes sense. So the everything has been changed as the result of the introduction of computers in around that period of time. And if we go forward to the opposition, what started to happen then was the introduction of social media. And smartphones, all of that, before that, we didn't have smartphones. You didn't walk around with basically a little computer in your hand all day long. So, my point that I'm making is the period that we're in right now and the things that are happening in our world right now are going to make an impact on us for the next 35 to 38 years. And we really are moving into a new era. So if we come back to what Saturn and Pluto mean in traditional astrology, Saturn is the principle of restriction and constriction. Pluto is the lord of the underworld. He is the god of death and rebirth. And their energy together has meant that Saturn is trying to hold down Pluto and not let him bring death to things, and not let that process of transformation happen. And Pluto, conversely, is breaking out of the bonds of Saturn and making change happen anyway. This is the basis of why I've been saying, ever since I've been doing these videos, and also in my writing, that this year is the time when the container of society was going to be dismantled. This alignment happens in the sign Capricorn, which is all about the container and the structure of society. The whole thing's been amplified. So this has been a particularly intense Saturn-Pluto alignment because Jupiter, the principle of expansion, Horus, the young king, has been traveling in alignment with Saturn and Pluto. Now, I do see that this particular week, when both Saturn and Pluto are changing direction, they're both turning direct, they've been retrograde now for a few months, and Jupiter's already direct. This is the initiation of the final phase of this particular alignment. This process is going to complete itself on the solstice in December. And it's going to, have some finishing up, so to speak, that will go on into January of 2021. But we're heading into the final phase of this process of transformation and change. So, one of the things that I'm really aware of is I think most of us are really starting to accept that we're not going to go back to how things used to be. Back in March and April and May, June, I think one of the reasons why things did not move faster at that time, in addition to these planets starting to turn retrograde, things did not move faster because many of us, at least psychologically, even if we weren't thinking in this way intellectually, we were still hanging on to a desire to go back to how things were. And more and more people are accepting that that's not going to happen. It's not going to be possible. And it's not even preferable anymore. And so many of the clients that I see are now started to think of, well, what do I need to start putting in place now so when some of the energies shift, which will happen in 2021, I can be ready to move in new directions that match up with the needs of the times. And that's something that we all need to be thinking about now is, what is it? And this is a Saturn thing. Saturn is Sobek, the old king in the Egyptian pantheon. What is it that's no longer working? People don't like Saturn transits, and they don't like Saturn aspects in their own chart. Saturn is often called the Great Malefic, and people considered it to be bad luck. But, the thing about Saturn is he's restricting and he's confining, and that never feels good. He can feel oppressive. He can be oppressive. In Greek and Roman myth, he was Kronos to the Greeks, Saturn to the Romans. This is the father who was so afraid that his children would usurp his power, he swallowed them. So he has that very oppressive energy. But he's also a protector. In ancient Egypt, Sobek was the old king, was considered to be a protector god. He was a protector of the Nile, and he was often shown as a human man with the head of a crocodile. And this energy in our psyche, in our personality, represents the reptilian brain. And the reptilian brain is that part of us that wants to stay alive. And if we think of this as kind of a protector energy, that is always kind of looking for danger and does it need to attack, this can work two ways. It can work around hanging on when it's time to let go. And we can see that in the metaphor of Sobek, the old king. The old king doesn't want to let go of his power. He doesn't want to release that which needs to be released and open to transformation. And that energy is very prominent on our planet right now. So that can be happening. But he's also protecting us. He's keeping us informed. That reptilian brain does not want to let us die. And if we believe, as I believe, that all of us have something to accomplish here on Earth, both for our own soul as well as from a planetary perspective, Sobek's an ally. And he's helping us to stay in form so that we can do what we came here to do. Now, Pluto is Osiris in the Egyptian pantheon. He is the Lord of regeneration. And in Greek and Roman myth, Pluto, Hades to the Greek, Pluto's to the Roman, he's the Lord of the underworld. And as the Lord of the underworld, that's where, people go and they wander forever. It's a realm as shadows and shades. It's where we go to meet our demons. It's the dark night of the soul, so to speak. In the Egyptian myth, Osiris is killed. He's killed not once, but twice. And in between those two deaths, he fathers a child. That child is Jupiter, Horus, the young king, the third member of the Great Shift Alliance. So he represents this concept, this idea that out of every death comes a birth. So part of the struggle that we have going on right now is, Pluto Osiris wants things to die, to transform. And Saturn, Sobek, is trying to keep the status quo going. And so they're at each other like that. So there's a real struggle there around what's going to happen. We just don't know how it's going to all turn out. But we can know that something is in the process of dying. And there's resistance to that process, resistance to the death. So what I would like to offer today is an opportunity to go on a journey with both Sobek and Osiris. And this is going to be kind of a two-part thing with next week as well. Because what we're going to do today is emphasize Sobek a little bit more and allow him to show us. He can also be thought of as the hermit in the tarot deck who holds a lantern. And one of the experiences of being under a Saturn transit is he won't let you look at anything except what it is that's not working. We frequently feel stuck when we're in a Saturn transit, and he keeps our focus on that place where we feel stuck. So we're going to allow him to show us what it is, that place where we're stuck, and what it is that needs to die. And then we're going to ask Osiris to take it from us so that we can allow it to die. When I say it's going to be a two-part piece, is we're going to allow that process to happen. And then next week, we're going to invite Osiris back for an encore. And we're going to ask him to take us through a process of rebirth. So I want to invite you to get comfortable. Take a couple of nice deep breaths. Exhale fully. And settle in. Let go of distractions. Settle into your body. And I want you to imagine that you are standing at the entrance to a cave. And this cave is dark. There's no light inside. You don't know how deep it is. You don't know where it goes to. You don't know how it's structured. You don't know anything. You just know it's an entrance to a cave. want you to notice how that feels. To be standing here, peering into the darkness, not knowing what's in there. And as you look into this cave, you see a light coming towards you, and it might be surprising. There's a light, and it's coming toward you. And you realize that there's a being coming towards you, and the being is carrying this light. It might be a lantern, it might be a torch, it might be a flashlight, whatever it is. And when this person gets close, you see that it's an old man. This is Sobek, the old king. And he is coming toward you with this light. And when he gets close to you, he looks at you and his eyes are piercing. It's as though he's looking deep into your soul. And he can see all those places where you feel stuck, constrained, restrained, not able to move. And this old king has been a protector for this part of you. And he wants to show you something. He shows you, he indicates to you that he wants you to follow him into the cave. And he is going to light your way. And so if you are willing, the two of you begin to move through this dark cave with your way being lit by Sobek as he holds his light, his lantern, his torch, as he holds it high. And there's enough light for you to see to follow him. And he's taking you toward something. And after walking for a while, Sobek stops and he holds his light high so that you can see what is ahead of you. And it is a cavern, a small stone room in the center of the cave. And he invites you to step in. And there is something in this cavern he wants you to see. A place where you are stuck. A place where you're hanging on to something that no longer works. It may be literal, it may be a job, a relationship, a place. It may be an attitude, a belief system. It may be a behavior, an addiction. It may be stuff, things that no longer serve you. It could be any number of things, but it's a place where you're stuck. Whatever it is, it no longer serves you. It no longer grows corn. You know that. You know it's not working anymore. And all he wants you to do right now is to see it. He's shining his light right on it. And if you try to look anywhere else, it's too dark. You can't see anything else. All you can see is the thing that he is illuminating for you. Allow yourself to see it. You become aware now that someone else has joined you. This is Osiris, the Lord of regeneration. If you are willing, Osiris will take from you that which no longer serves you. That thing, that place, that attitude, that relationship, that thought, that behavior, whatever it is, he will take it and he will bring death to it. I'm going to be quiet for a couple of minutes. And during this time, if you are willing, in some way, give this thing to Osiris. Ask him to take it from you. Place it on his altar. Let him know you're willing to die to it. And ask him to take it from you. But make sure you're really ready to let it go. It really is done. And know that Sobek will stand as a protector, holding the light, letting you see this process. He is willing to let it go if you are willing to let it go. Nice deep breath. You are joined now by Isis, Queen Mother of Heaven. She who is with us through every process of transformation and change, every death and every birth. And this is certainly a process of transformation and change. She wraps her rainbow wings around you and invites you to lie back against her breast. Nice deep breaths. Receive her comfort, her love. And I suggest to you that throughout this next week, you allow yourself to remember that which you have released, that you have given it to Osiris, that you are letting it die. And allow yourself to remember the comforting presence of Isis. For next week, we will invite Osiris back and ask him to help us give birth to something new that will come out of the death of that which we are letting go. Let yourself be in between. This will be an intense week. Let yourself be held by the loving arms of Isis. Nice deep breath. Come back into the room. Thank you. We will talk again.